In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at these current conditions. We're going to be taking a look at multiple tropical cyclones as well as that upcoming pattern. Let's just get straight into things though, and first things first, we're taking a look here at our current radar imagery. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of showery and stormy activity in general going on for the western United States, the northwestern United States, the Four Corner states, and then also the north central United States as well. We've kind of cooled off here for Arizona and New Mexico for now, so things have kind of chilled out a little bit. We do see that the southeast and the Gulf states are dealing with quite a bit of storminess. There is a tropical cyclone right there. It's going to hit Texas, probably more minor, but could bring some storminess, some flooding probabilities, and also some windiness. And then we have a pocket of showers moving through here, through kind of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. Let's take a look first things first at the northwestern United States here. We do have some showery activity going on here for the state of Washington. Nothing you guys aren't used to. Very, very light rain actually taking place at this point. And I think as the daytime temperatures hit, it should kind of start to subside. Now, as we move a little bit further south and further east here, we see that for states like Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming, we have these lighter to moderate showers moving across the region. And this is pretty similar to Washington. I think this is going to pretty much cool off as we reach the daytime temperatures today. It's going to kind of it's going to filter things out, and in general, things are moving further northward anyway. So probabilities up here are going to go up, and probabilities down here are going to go down, if that makes sense. Now, as we move up to the north from that region, we can see that there is some lighter showers, more sporadic showers going on in between. But as we take a look at northern Montana and northern North Dakota, as well as coming up soon, probably northern Minnesota here, we have some heavier showers, even thunderstorms taking place up here. And this is where we get a little bit more impactful conditions, especially in those thunderstorms, where it could obviously make driving a little bit difficult. Could be some flooding concerns as well. There's multiple implications that come with that, obviously, but that is what we're dealing with at this point. Now, as we move down to the Gulf states, we could see this low pressure system in here, kind of this cyclone that's going to basically head in like this. And again, it's going to bring pretty much quite a bit of impacts for all of these areas in here with the storminess. I mean, it's even shoving storms up here into the other deep south states. So this is impacting multiple different states at this point, directly and indirectly. We can see that there is already some heavier thunderstorms near the coastline of Texas, and these are only going to get closer. So expect that basically once this video is out and a little bit later, these areas are going to really start to get impacted by these storms. Now, as we move towards the deep south, like I said, so we're looking at the Florida Panhandle, the coasts of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, all throughout there. We are seeing these storms, like I said, getting shoved onshore from this tropical system. So expect isolated to scattered thunderstorms. Those are pretty tropical as well, where basically there's high humidity, high temperatures, and this is creating sudden downpours. There's probably sunniness in between these storms. So really interesting conditions. Nothing you guys aren't used to down there, though. Florida, we do have some storms offshore of our east coast here, and these could be moving onshore very soon here for the east coast of Florida. I expect a stormy day potentially later on for Florida here. As we reach the daytime temperatures, things should become more sufficient for thunderstorm activity, and I think we can see that developing later on. Now, as we reach South Carolina and Georgia here, we can see there is actually some thunderstorms moving through at this point. They're kind of just around for the area here in the southeast. And there's actually some heavier pockets of this going on for states like, or regions like Charleston, Columbia, even heading northward towards Myrtle Beach there in South Carolina. These are all areas where we're seeing these thunderstorms fire up and just continue. Even for North Carolina here, we're seeing these thunderstorms around for areas like Raleigh, Greenville down here, even areas like Morehead City. In southern North Carolina, and the Outer Banks a little bit later on might start to see this. I think north of the North Carolina-Virginia border we might be spared, though. It really looks like this, these pockets are going to move in kind of like this. Maybe areas like Hertford, Edenton, Elizabeth City might get impacted, but it looks like areas in Virginia are going to kind of dodge this one at this point. Now, as we move up, last but not least, to the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, we can see this pocket of moderate showers, mostly light to moderate showers going on at this point for states like Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and especially up there in Canada that's taking place. But this looks to be fizzling out as well, somewhat like we've been seeing in the western states with that precipitation. All right, now I think that covers just about everything. What we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to really dive into that upcoming pattern. We're going to take a look at everything as far as storminess, precipitation, snowfall, temperatures, and then we're going to really take a deep look into that tropical activity as well as the upcoming severe weather. Now here we are taking a look at the upcoming pattern. Let's just take a look at this afternoon on Wednesday, June 29th, and as you can see, the jet stream is moving about like this. We see some storminess moving along this area as well, especially here on the western end. And then kind of for the interior northeastern United States, we see that as well. And then we see the storminess here associated with this tropical system underneath. That's going to be about here where we're seeing that taking place. As we approach tomorrow time frame, is going to be the afternoon hour as well. We see some storminess continuing for the coast of Texas and Louisiana, as well as really just all the rest of the southeast and the deep south. We're seeing quite a bit of this activity going on for all of these regions. We see a low developing here, a 994 actually, matter of fact, and this is stretching underneath. This is going to develop a bit of a cold front that's going to allow for some cold air to move in behind. So we're going to see this start to take place just like this. That's for Thursday, June 30th. Let's move towards Friday, July 1st, better yet. And we see this cold front kind of developing in here. We still see this activity in the southeast here by Friday. We see some storminess here up in the northwest as well as that monsoon kind of getting started again. So going to start to get really stormy here as we approach the month of July. Keep that in mind as we move forward. Saturday, July 2nd, we see that the eastern and the Gulf states here are dealing with this storminess as well. And then we're seeing some stuff pop up here for the north central United States. Sunday, July 3rd here, the afternoon hour, we see this eastern and the Gulf states are dealing with some storminess, not quite that much. We see up here in the north central United States, we're dealing with some sporadic storminess, not really widespread, and then also the Pacific Northwest as well. And then we see that for Monday, this is going to be the 4th of July, by the way. We see some storminess up here for the Northwest. Also here for portions of the plains and also for the southeast, we're seeing some of this. And then the interior northeastern United States as well. As we approach that evening, things get even stormier here for the southeast. So unfortunately, it's going to be pretty spotty for some storminess here on July 4th. There for some firework activity. So there might be some interruptions for sure. I know locally here, there's actually a 3rd of July fireworks as well, which is nice because you can kind of get 2 days instead of just 1 day to potentially get some of those fireworks going. So if the 4th of July is stormy, there might be some 3rd of July celebrations going on somewhere near you that you can try to figure out, but that would be convenient, definitely, in any case. Now, for Tuesday, July 5th, the storminess really starts to impact the southeast here, as we can see. A lot of storminess here in the southeastern corner of the nation. Wednesday, July 6th, we see this continue on. Also, this area to the north here, seeing some of that as well. Thursday, July 7th, things start to quiet down, honestly, in my opinion. Jet streams moving about like this. We see some storminess here underneath, but for the most part, a lot less stormy than it was a couple of days before this. And then by the time we're reaching July 8th through 9th time frame, the east starts to get stormy again. So things in July are overall looking so far, we're pretty far out, but they're so far looking stormier than what we saw in June. So definitely keep that in mind as we move forward. That is kind of the look as of now. Now, let's take a look at that total precipitation through the next 10 days. As you can see, we're expecting about no precipitation in the white regions. The grays are going to be 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens are going to be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of precipitation. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds will be 2 to 5 inches of precipitation. And then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. I see some of that going on for the Carolinas down there, where that persistent storminess takes place according to this model. Now, for total snowfall, there's actually a tiny bit more than what we were seeing the last couple of days. I see some grays popping up in here, but it's still basically nothing, and nobody lives up there. So we're just doing this to note the day where the last snowfall happens in the United States at this point, basically. If you're anywhere in the grays, you're expecting a dusting, if anything. That goes for everywhere in the United States that's even seeing snowfall, so we don't even get beyond that over the next 10 days. Blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purples will be 6 to 10. Pinks will be 10 to 20. We don't even get above that even up there in Canada, so that's where I'm going to draw the line. But we see some of that for the Canadian Rockies and also up there in far north-central Canada as well. Now, let's go ahead and move on, and what we're going to do is take a look at the upcoming temperature pattern. Now, here's the upcoming temperature pattern. I'm going to slide this towards this afternoon. We see a bit of cooler temperatures here for portions of the southeast with warmer over top, kind of. That's the look at this point. For the west, it's mostly the northwest dealing with cooler and the southwest dealing with warmer. That's the look as of now. As we approach tomorrow afternoon, what's going to end up happening is we see things actually warming here for the east. So we see a bit of a ridge developing here in the eastern United States, allowing for some warmer than normal temperatures to spread across this region with more neutral temperatures out west at this point. Friday, July 1st, we see things warming up even further here for portions of the eastern United States. Again, fairly neutral here for the western United States in general. Saturday, July 2nd, things get a little bit sporadic. We see cooler temperatures here for the west coast, also for the southeast. Mostly warmth in between these areas, though. That is kind of the pattern we're in right now. A bit of a trough in the west, ridge in the east. Pattern starts to develop by July, where we see this warmth really heading into the eastern United States. And there is some neutral temperatures out west, but mostly cooler temperatures is what I would say is what we're dealing with at this point. For the 4th of July, it's still relatively cool out here for the western United States. We have a pretty big ridge there that mostly peaks over this region, I would say. But also there is quite a bit of warmth heading towards the eastern United States and definitely some cold air pouring in to the west coast of the United States. For Tuesday, July 5th, we see that ridge is still primarily over the central United States, as you can see, surging up here. Still cooler air pouring in to here, and also some cooler air starting to pour in to these regions as well. That's kind of the look at this point. The 6th, this is a lot of the same here, warmer in the central, cooler in the west, cooler in the east. 7th, we start to see things warming out west actually by this point. So the central and western United States start to really warm up as we approach the 10th time frame of July. Here's the 8th. We see the central really heating up. Both coasts are a little bit cooler. And then this is the end of the model run. So that's as far as we get. That's the pattern that's coming up. And that's all we know at this point. Now, let's go ahead and move on and start talking about that tropical activity. Here's our 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We have 3 cyclones like we've been talking about, or disturbances at least. And if we're talking about the one first off here for offshore of Texas, we actually have a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and 5 days at this point. So it has increased to where we have a code orange for that one. That one's looking fairly interesting, and we will take a deeper dive into it, I promise. This other disturbance now has a 30% chance of development over the next 5 days, which is looking a little bit more elevated than yesterday, where I think there was a 10 or a 20% chance. So we've gone up a little bit. There's also a 10% chance over the next 48 hours, but that's looking pretty limited at this point. And then we obviously have potential tropical cyclone 2 there, very, very close to South America. Pretty rare for a cyclone to head that far south. Now, let's go ahead and move on, and we're going to talk about the cone forecast for that potential tropical cyclone 2. Here it is, and as you can see, it's now expected to stay a tropical storm, basically all the way through where it's going to head into the Pacific. So from now, it's expected to become a tropical cyclone at any time. And then by 2 a.m. on next Monday, it'll still be a tropical storm, but south of Mexico in the Pacific Ocean. So this one is going to really just move through Nicaragua and Costa Rica and then into the Pacific from that point. Also could impact countries like El Salvador and Guatemala as well there as it's moving through the Pacific. Now, here's the satellite imagery for this one. As you can see, it is sort of organized, but it's just keeps getting a little bit disorganized. I will note that this one is moving incredibly quickly, and sometimes that can disrupt things a little bit. I think it's reorganizing at this point, and maybe once we see it get its act together here this afternoon is when we're finally going to see this one become a tropical storm, but only time will really be able to tell. Now, here's the intensity guidance for this one, and as you can see, the intensity guidance has chilled out a little bit. We only see one take it to Category 1 status, and it takes it all the way up to 3. We do see some on the tail end here once it's in the Pacific, take it to Category 1 status. That would obviously be a little bit less concerning once it's over open water in the Pacific. But at this point, it seems like we're going to see this one become a tropical storm, become a very strong tropical storm, and then once it hits land, it's going to drop off, maybe re-intensifying in the Pacific. That's the look at this point. Now let's take a look at that spaghetti model guidance for this one as well. And as you can see, it's pretty on par with what the cone forecast is calling for. There's a couple stragglers that take it pretty far northward here, but for the most part, I think this is pretty spot on of what we're going to see happen. This one has been suppressed so far south, and that's why it's had such a difficult time developing. Now, let's take a look at that one offshore of Texas. Here's the satellite imagery for that one, and this one's also looking quite organized, okay? It's moving a little bit slower, and you can tell it's just really rapidly intensifying right now, where we see those blacks and whites popping up. It looks like an explosion happening there in the Gulf of Mexico, and that is this storm really getting its act together, possibly becoming a bit of a cyclone itself. Here's the intensity guidance, and at this point, you can see there's only a couple of models that take this one towards tropical storm status. But, somewhere in here could be pretty close to a tropical depression if it manages to creep up a little bit into that higher intensity. So we're going to have to watch very closely for this. Obviously, it's just a name, and right now it's already a pretty strong storm, even though it's not a tropical depression or a storm. And it's going to be impactful regardless of what this one ends up being called. It's not really going to matter. Here's the spaghetti model guidance for this one as well, and as you can see, it's going to hit somewhere there in southern Texas is the expectations, but it's actually surprising how spread apart these members are for this storm. We see anywhere from this very southern tip of Texas all the way up almost to Houston, and we see this huge spread is making it a little bit difficult to track where this one's going to go. We see this oftentimes with slow-moving storms because they can be a little bit more unpredictable from my experience personally. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to talk about that upcoming severe weather. Now, here's the day one categorical outlook. As you can see, we have 4 general thunderstorm risks, one in the southeast, one in the northeast, one in the 4 corner states up through the north central United States, and then one there for Washington, Idaho, and Montana. That's all the areas where we expect general thunderstorms, but anything is possible, so heed every watch, warning, and advisory. There in the darker green for the north central United States, we have a marginal risk at severe weather, and that is where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. And then the yellow area there is where we have a slight risk at severe weather, where we expect scattered severe weather to occur. So keep that in mind throughout the day today on Wednesday, June 29th. Now for Thursday, June 30th, we have 2 general thunderstorm risk areas in the lighter greens, and that's where, again, we expect general thunderstorms, but anything is possible, so you're going to want to heed every watch, warning, and advisory in any case. We have our marginal risk there in Kansas, Nebraska, up through Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even Michigan there as well. And that's where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. Now for day 3 here, we have 2 general thunderstorm risk areas, one there for Washington and then one there for pretty much, I would say at least 75% of the country there is covered in that general thunderstorm risk. And that's going to be for July 1st there. So Friday, July 1st. And this is, again, where we expect general thunderstorms, but anything is possible. Heed every watch, warning, and advisory. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, we're at a 4 out of 6. I still don't feel fully confident. I feel like, tomorrow, once these storms are moving along and becoming what they're supposed to become, I'll feel a lot more confident. But for today, we're still at a 4 out of 6. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Craich, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Larry the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah, Harley McCullough, Catbite, Charles Dennett, Bill Dallas Garys, and John Khaleesi also. I would also like to thank our channel members, Catbite, Steam Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.